Hello aspirants, welcome to Paritranaya. We all know that science and technology plays a very important role from UPSC Civil Services examination point of view. Every year, close to 15 questions do appear in the prelims. But when it comes to sources, we do not have a worthy source. So NCERTs are not sufficient and there are no worthy books in the market, unlike for the other subjects for science and technology. So here the best source would be the current affairs, and especially the page which has been devoted to science and which appears on every Sunday in The Hindu. So in this video, we'll be discussing about the articles which have appeared in the science page of June 25. So these are the various articles. So the role of Y chromosomes in cancer outcomes studied, mosquito surveillance in non-residential areas needed, tundra diversity decline seen with sea ice disappearance, hard and soft materials form a fatigue resistant fan. So these are the various articles which we will be discussing today. So let us begin with the first article and we shall analyze and understand the things from exam perspective. So let us begin with the first one, that is role of Y chromosomes in cancer outcomes. So here we all know about Y chromosomes, or at least we need to have some fundamental understanding. So when it comes to chromosomes, so we know that Y chromosomes and X chromosomes. So Y chromosomes, they are present only in male. They are present only in male. They are not present in female. Whereas females, they just consist of X chromosomes. Okay, X chromosomes. So these are some of the basics. So recently there has been a study, and in this study it has been indicated that through this the outcome of this study has indicated that males are much more vulnerable for towards cancer than female. And what is the reason? The reason is the presence of Y chromosomes. The presence of Y chromosomes. So this indicates that sex plays a role. To what extent we are vulnerable to what? Cancer. So males are more vulnerable to, or males are more vulnerable to cancer than female. So this has been highlighted here. So in this visual article, there are some important terms which have appeared, and we need to understand them. We need to understand those terms. So which are those terms? Okay. So here we come across a term called as metastasis. So what is this metastasis or metastatic cancer? So metastatic cancer is one wherein if a cancer occurs at a particular place in our body, then the same, so cells will break off from that place, from that original tumor, and they will start spreading to other parts of the body. So that is called as metastatic cancer. So not all cancer are metastatic cancer, but few cancers are metastatic cancer. So in this context, this term has appeared. So we need to know its meaning. So many times in UPSC, they will ask the meaning about the term. So what is metastasis cancer? So we need to know its meaning. Similarly, they have mentioned that colorectal cancer is the second most prevalent cancer. So again, this data is also very important from both prelims as well as mains point of view. Next, again, one more term has appeared. So that is T cell. So if you look at the previous year question paper, already they have asked a question on T cell. So what are these T cells? Whether they are beneficial to human beings or they are not beneficial. So T cells are beneficial. Okay. So they are our what? They are involved in our immune response. So what does this immune response mean? So whenever any kind of pathogens do attack us, so in order to fight those pathogens, we require certain cells, and the important role is played by T cells. Okay, T cells. T cells are a type of white blood cells, also called lymphocytes. So they help your immune system fight germs and protect you from disease. So T cells, they help you protect against the diseases. So we need to know about all these things. Similarly, one more thing is anti-PD1. So what is this anti-PD1? So UPSC generally focuses on these terms. So it's a immunotherapy. It is a immunotherapy. Okay, immunotherapy. So many times when such kind of terms do appear, for example, if you look at the previous year question papers, they used to ask question like CRISPR CAS9. So what is CAS9? A gene editing tool. So similarly, when such terms do appear, we need to know what exactly they are. Okay, what exactly they are. So in these articles, these are the important things. That is, males are more vulnerable to cancer, because of the presence of Y chromosomes. We got to know what is T cell, what is anti-PD1, and next, second most dominant cancer types across the world, colorectal cancer, and what is metastasis. So these are the important contents of this article. So next we shall move with the second article, that is mosquito surveillance. Mosquito surveillance. Okay. So we know mosquito. So mosquitoes, they are responsible for spreading of diseases like malaria, dengue and all. So in this context, so mosquito surveillance has to be done. Okay. But as per the World Health Organization's guidelines, they say that door-to-door larval surveillance has to be done. Means door-to-door we have to visit, and whether larva, whether do we have sites which help for the larval production and all. So that has to be done. But in contrast, a recent study indicated that non-residential locations, means where people are not present, even such sites are potential sites for breeding sites, potential breeding sites. So in that context, we need to understand few of the terms. What are those terms? A few of the things. So larval habitats. So what are larvae? So in the initial stages, it is called as larva. Later on, it will become a grown-up. Will be called as mosquito. So, what are the various breeding sites? So they may be man-made or they may be natural. So some of the man-made sites have been mentioned here. So water containers, discarded grinding stones, tires, plastic containers. So all these, they are potential sites for mosquitoes to breed. Okay. So whether in prelims question can be asked, yes, prelims they may ask you a question, which of the following can act as a potential breeding site for mosquitoes? Such kind of questions they may ask. Okay. Apart from the man-made, there are natural larval habitats as well. So plantations are there. Next, barren lands also can act as larval habitats. Next, plant axils and tree holes. So wherever water can be stored, so generally such places, they become potential breeding sites for larva. Okay, mosquito larva. Next, in this context, macro habitats. So some macro habitats have been studied for the which act as potential breeding sites. Okay, breeding sites. So in this context, another important point that has to be noted is, so Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus. Okay, albopictus. So these two mosquito species or varieties have appeared in the newspaper. So we need to ask a question to ourselves. So these mosquitoes are involved in the spread of which kind of disease? So you will get to know that dengue. They are involved in dengue transmission. So here we should not stop here itself. We should ask an extra question to ourselves. So if these species of mosquitoes are responsible for the transmission of dengue, then which species of mosquito is responsible for the transmission of for example, malaria? So in this fashion, we need to ask the questions to ourselves and try to explore the things. Okay. So in this way, this curiosity-driven learning will become beneficial and it will help us to crack more number of questions in the prelims. So next, shall move the next article. That is how prokaryotes led to eukaryotes. Okay. So here, let us understand the important terms which have been present here. So UPSC generally focuses on the terms. Okay. So what are prokaryotes and what are eukaryotes? Okay. So generally some of these things might be present in static book like NCERT as well. But at the time of the examination, it becomes very difficult for us to go through each and every page and revise it. But rather UPSC focuses on current affairs, okay, on current developments. So from that perspective, whatever is present here, if we are able to comprehend this, that would be sufficient from exam point of view. So prokaryotes, what are prokaryotes? They are unicellular, means they have only one single cell. Next, they do not have any organelles such as mitochondria. So their prokaryotes do not have mitochondria. Their DNA is not packed into nucleus. So we know that every cell has a nucleus, but their DNA in particular cell, okay, so their DNA, whatever we have nucleus, right, in this nucleus DNA is not there. It is not packed in nucleus, it is present somewhere outside. Okay. Whereas in case of eukaryotes, it has mitochondria. Next, their DNA is packed into a nucleus. So if this is the cell and if this is the nucleus, so here we have DNA. Most of them are complex and multicellular beings. So UPSC generally focuses on these questions. These are very important from both prelims, predominantly prelims point of view. So it may ask you a difference. So what is the difference between prokaryote and eukaryote? Otherwise they may make a statement like this. So prokaryotes are multicellular organisms, or it may also frame a statement like prokaryotes have mitochondria. So when they frame such kind of questions, you should be able to identify, you should be able to mark them as wrong. Okay, and that is possible only if we have what thorough understanding. Okay, thorough understanding. Next, here again some other terms have appeared: prokaryotes, eukaryotes, mitochondria. So we know that mitochondria is called as powerhouse of the cell. Okay, powerhouse of the cell, powerhouse of the cell. So here finally what is highlighted is archaea and bacteria. Questions may be asked whether both of them are same or different. So archaea archaea and bacteria, both of them, they are different, they are not same. Okay, they are not same. So in this, from this article what we can understand is, so Asgard is a type of archaea. Asgard is a type of archaea. Next, protobacteria is a type of bacteria, is a type of bacteria. And here we need to understand that always species have evolved. Species have evolved. So initially there were no bacteria, there was no mitochondria. So how mitochondria evolved? So mitochondria evolved through protobacteria. Okay, first time mitochondria was found in protobacteria. Okay, protobacteria. Next, what is Asgard did? Asgard, it consumed protobacteria. So it consumed protobacteria, then both of them united. So that process we call it as endosymbiotic. Endosymbiotic. So when we say symbiotic relationship, we call it as a symbiotic relationship when two species are dependent on each other. Okay, two species are dependent on each other. So the most famous example of what symbiotic relationship is lichen. Okay, lichen. In lichen, what fungus and algae are interdependent. Similarly here, Asgard and protobacteria, they'll form a symbiotic relationship. Symbiotic relationship. But as it is formed within a cell, we'll call it as endosymbiotic. Okay, endosymbiotic. So Asgard and protobacteria, they'll form a symbiotic relationship. As a result of this, evolution will take place. Okay, as a result of this, evolution will take place, and later on plants were formed, animals were formed. So all these developments took place. All these developments took place. Okay, so here we have. So present day, whatever the animals, fungi and plants we have, so these are descendants of endosymbiotic relationship. So endosymbiotic relationship that occurred between Asgard and protobacteria. Because of that, so whatever the descendants were there, so these descendants finally they evolved into animals, fungi and plants. Okay, very important. And again a special feature in plants. So in plants require photosynthesis. So once this endosymbiotic relationship was established, later on they again consumed cyanobacterium. Okay, cyanobacterium. So because this cyanobacterium is involved in photosynthesis. So photosynthesizing chloroplasts found in plant cells. Okay, plant cells. So how did it occur? This Asgard and mitochondrial union had already taken place. This union had already taken place. After this union, what they did? They again took photosynthesizing cyanobacteria. So they again took photosynthesizing cyanobacteria, and because of that, because of this, plants were able to synthesize what? Chloroplast. Okay, chloroplast. Next, in this context, few of the things are important. So what is that? Amino acids. So proteins are made up of amino acids. So these kind of questions can be framed. So proteins are made up of what? They are made up of amino acids. Next, apart from that, again these points are important. So nature uses only left-handed amino acids. So when it comes to amino acids, there are two types. One is right-handed, another one is left-handed and right-handed. So left-handed is considered beneficial for the life, whereas right-handed, they can be poisonous. That's why nature only uses left-handed amino acids. So in what kind of questions can be framed in prelims? They may frame a statement like this. So nature uses only right-handed amino acids. If they frame such kind of statement, then that will be wrong. So understanding is required here. Okay, clear understanding. Next, so any species, it needs to have a mechanism in order to discriminate between left-handed amino acids and right-handed amino acids, because it wants to separate good amino acids from bad amino acids. So how do they how do they separate? How do they discriminate between good and bad? So this mechanism is different for asgards and bacteria. So the way asgards differentiate between good and bad is different from the way bacteria discriminate between good and bad. Okay, good and bad. So how exactly they do it, it has been given here, so not important. Okay, not important. So here we need to understand that bacteria and asgard, so when it comes to discrimination between good and bad amino acids, so they have different mechanisms. Next, so tundra vegetation. So where do we find the tundra vegetation? So at various places, but here in this article it is in Arctic. Okay, Arctic. So where is Arctic located? Close to the northern pole. Okay, northern pole we have Arctic. So which are the famous vegetations of Arctic? So we have plants there, we have lichens, and we also have fungi. So now because of the climate change, so the vegetation is being affected there. Okay, vegetation is being affected. So tundra diversity includes plants, lichens, and fungi. So this diversity has declined. Why this diversity has declined? Because of the rising temperature, because of the phenomenon of global warming. And because of this global warming, their sea ice is disappearing. And as the sea ice is disappearing in Arctic, so the diversity in vegetation is coming down. Okay, is coming down. So here, the words on which we need to focus is caribou and musk oxen. So what kind of questions can be framed here? So where can we find caribou and musk oxen? So generally they are found in Arctic region. So whether they are herbivorous, omnivorous, or carnivorous, such kind of questions can be framed. So they are herbivorous. Okay, they are herbivorous. So in this article, you'll come across a word called as understory. So what is this understory? Many times what we do is, without trying to understand the meaning, we just try to mug up the things. Okay, mug up the things. So here, understory is in a forest. In a forest, the tall trees are there, but apart from that, the small vegetation which is present in this region. So it is called as understory. And one more word that appears is browsing. So you have to separate browsing. You have to try to understand the difference between browsing and grazing. So grazing we already know. So what happens in browsing? So it is we get a clarity with the help of this picture. So in browsing, it's a type of herbivory or feeding on plants. Here we feed on leaves, soft shoots, or fruits, or high growing trees. So rather than feeding on the grass. So this is the difference between browsing and grazing. In grazing, animals feed on the grass, whereas in case of browsing, so they feed on leaves, and which the trees which are generally bit tall. Okay, bit tall. So these things we need to understand. So in this article, it has been highlighted that in order to address what we have to do is address the negative impact of climate change. So encouraging herbivore diversity. If we promote more and more herbivore diversity in Arctic region, then the tundra region, whatever the impacts of climate change is there, right? So it can be reduced by significant amount. So this is the conclusion of this particular article. Okay, article. Next, bivalves. Okay. So what are bivalves? First, we need to understand what are bivalves. So again, these are very important from exam point of view, because in the previous year, 2020 and 21, they also asked a question on bivalve as well. So first thing that we need to do is, what are bivalves? So if you look at the images, here we get an example of a bivalve, and it's a mussel. Okay, mussel. So here it has two parts. Okay, two parts, and they have been joined here. So in this article, what they highlighted is, so these bivalves, mussel shell, they open and shut without damage for hundreds or thousands of cycles. So generally, when we take any physical device, when we open and close it for multiple times, so probably after trying 50 or 100 times, then probably it will start causing some kind of problem. It may not work properly, it may not function properly. But in case of bivalves, so this closing and opening will happen thousands of times. But in spite of that, it continues to work properly without any kind of problem. So this is the property of bivalves. Okay, bivalves. So what kind of scientific mechanism help us to retain that property has been described here, but not important from exam point of view. Okay, from exam point of view. From exam point of view, what is important is what is muscle? Muscle is a bivalve. Okay, bivalve. Apart from that, UPSC focuses on which are the other bivalves present. Which are the other bivalves present? So you should search for it and make a list of it. Okay, make a list for it. So whether only soft materials are responsible for this property? No. Both hard and soft materials which are part of these bivalves, so they give it this property. Okay, give it this property. So if we understand this at the superficial level, that would be sufficient. That would be sufficient. Next, the role of hybridization in mammals evolution. Okay, so whether hybridization has taken place or not. So what is hybridization? When organisms from two different species mix or breed together, it is known as hybridization. Okay, it is called as hybridization. So here recent research study has shown that so gray snub nosed monkey. Okay, so this is because this has evolved from the hybridization. Okay, from the hybridization of which two species? Golden snub nosed monkey and another one is Rhinopithecus species. So both of them, okay, because of the union of these two species, a new species has evolved, that is gray snub nosed monkey. Similarly, here they have given about the example of what? Bonobos or baboons. So here that has been identified, one group of species that has been identified as having the history of hybridization is baboons. Okay, baboons. So just have a look at these baboons. So what kind of question can be asked in prelims? So whether baboons have history of hybridization? Yes, baboons have history of hybridization. Or the questions framed maybe in this fashion. So there has been no hybridization when it comes to species of monkeys. So if such kind of questions are do appear, then we should be able to tackle with the information that we have here. It means even in mammals, hybridization do take place. Okay, this much we have to understand. Next, so again this is very important. So here UPSC, it often focuses on the terms which appear in the newspaper. So this hominin, it's a term which has appeared in the newspaper. So what does hominin indicate? It indicates an early human ancestor. An early human ancestor. So already such kind of question has been asked in what? 2019. So in 2019 they had asked about a term called as Denisovan. So again that had appeared from that question they are framed from the newspaper itself. So in that context, what is hominin? Is an early human ancestor. So again specifically they also mentioned about hominin Australopithecus afarensis. Okay, so UPSC generally does not go into the deeper aspects like this, but still out of curiosity you can just prepare. So this was an early human species that lived in East Asia over 3 million years ago. So all these 3 million years ago and all, UPSC generally does not focus, so you can just ignore it. Okay, you can ignore it. So they are shorter than modern humans with an ape-like face and smaller brain, but also able to walk on 2 legs. So like human beings, they were also able to walk on 2 legs. So they adapted to both tree as well as savanna dwelling, so helping the species survive for almost a million years. Okay, million years. So UPSC generally, now the current demand of the examination, it does not expect us to recall all these things. If you are able to connect what is hominin, early human species, so that would be sufficient. If the time permits at the time of examination, then go through all these entity. Otherwise, just these first 2 lines would be sufficient. First 2 lines would be sufficient. Next, Lucy. So what is Lucy? A question may be framed like this. So in the recent newspaper, the term Lucy appeared. So what is this Lucy? So Lucy is a famous fossil specimen discovered in Ethiopia. Okay, Ethiopia. So where is Ethiopia located here? So Ethiopia is located here. So again, the maximum question that they may ask is, what is Lucy? So it's a fossil fuel specimen which was discovered in Ethiopia. Okay, it was discovered in Ethiopia. So in this fashion, if we regularly keep track of the contents of The Hindu, especially the articles which appear in Sunday's newspaper in a page which is devoted to science, and if we are able to regularly keep a track of it, then definitely we will be able to answer more number of science related questions confidently in the examination hall. So next we have few of the practice questions here. So just go through these practice questions, and if at all you want to answer these practice questions in a test mode, then in the description section we have shared a link, so you can just click on the link and attempt these questions in test mode. Okay, in test mode. So here these are the questions. So Y chromosomes are present only in male. You have to indicate true or false. Next, metastatic cancer is the one which do not spread to other parts of the body. Next, T cells are the cells involved in immunosuppression. Anti-PD1 is the gene editing tool. So plant axils provide breeding ground for mosquitoes. The Aedes aegypti is involved in the transmission of malaria. Prokaryotes are unicellular and the mitochondria generates energy for them. Asgard is a type of bacteria. Cyanobacterium is photosynthesizing bacteria. Nature only uses left-handed amino acids, as the right-handed ones can be poisonous. So tundra vegetation comprises of lichens. Caribou and musk oxen are omnivorous. Mussel is an example of bivalve. Species baboons have history of hybridization. Hominin refers to a tissue that helps humans stand straight. The famous fossil Lucy was discovered in the Arctic region. Okay, so these are the questions. If at all you want to answer through comment box, then you can answer whether it is true or false. Or if you want to attempt it through test in a test mode, then you can click on the link and attempt in test mode. So this was about the science and technology related page of The Hindu of today's newspaper. Similarly, in the upcoming videos, we will be discussing all the other important topics related to UPSC Civil Services examination. For all our further updates, subscribe to our channel and hit on the bell icon. Thank you.